The one problem that we see when we see our claims is something called selective enforcement of the documents. Selective enforcement becomes that issue because all of a sudden Jennifer realizes that, you know what, maybe I am being tough. Maybe my next door neighbor has a right to park that car in that visitor spot. So now all of a sudden, Jennifer, who went it from doing the job she should be doing, passing assessments, maintaining association, enforcing the rules, all of a sudden she selectively enforced the rules. That's when you have a small problem into a big problem.
HOA Insights, common sense for common areas, exists to help all 2 million volunteer board members nationwide have the right information at the right time to make the right decisions for their future. This podcast is sponsored by 4 companies that care about board members: Association Insights and Marketplace, Association Reserves, Community Financials, and Kevin Davis Insurance Services. You'll find links to their websites and social media in the show notes.
Hi, I'm Robert Nordlund of Association Reserves.
And I'm Kevin Davis of Kevin Davis Insurance Services. And this is HOA Insight, where we promote common sense
for common areas. Well, welcome to episode 75, where we're again speaking with insurance expert and regular co-host Kevin Davis about the conflict that often exists between the board, who sets the budget and guides the association forward according to the governing documents and the rules, and the homeowners. Well, often it seems like the boards and the homeowners operate at cross purposes, and we're going to address that issue head on today and try to bridge that gap. Well, this is a follow-up to episode number 74, which was another of our popular live stream episodes, where you get to hear and see all 3 of our regular co-hosts in conversation in real time, addressing current topics like the new Fannie Mae Association lookup tool and answering your questions. And if you missed that episode or any other prior episode, take a moment after today's program to listen from our podcast website, hoainsights.org, or watch on our YouTube channel. And better yet, subscribe from any of the major podcast platforms so you don't miss any future episodes. Well, those of you watching on YouTube can see the HOA Insights mug I've got here that I got from our merch store, which you can browse through from our hoainsights.org website or from the link in the show notes, of course. You'll find we have some specialty items for sale like this and free board member Zoom backgrounds. So some things for sale and some things for free. So as a treat, go to the merch store, find the mug you'd like, and I'll have that mug shipped to you free of charge to the 10th person to email podcast@reservestudy.com with their mug choice and mentioning episode 75 mug giveaway. Well, we enjoy hearing from you, responding to the issues that you are facing at your association. So if you have a hot topic, a crazy story, not that that ever happens in our world, or a question you'd like us to address, you can contact us at 805-203-3130 or email us at podcast@reservestudy.com. Now, one of those listener questions prompted today's episode, where we had Jennifer from Phoenix who wrote in saying, I feel like ever since I got on the board, homeowners who were my friends look at me like I'm the bad guy. Is this common? And how can we change that?
Yeah.
And Kevin, that's what we're going to tackle here today.
Yeah, and you know what? It's a good topic because, again, as we handle directors and officers insurance for community associations, that's all we do. And we see this a lot where you have board members who are constantly out there trying to do their best job, but not being respected, not being treated fairly, and considered the bad guy. And the reason why this is why I believe they feel that way, because the board has basically 3 jobs. They have to enforce the rules, collect assessments, and maintain the association. So when they do that, guess what happens? Nothing. Nobody comes by and say, thanks a lot, Jennifer. You did a really good job of maintaining the association. And I'm glad you enforced the documents as well as you should. Congratulations, Jennifer. Well done. And the assessments you collected, wow, they look great. And everything you've done has been a wonderful job. When they don't collect enough assessments, right? When they don't enforce the rules, when they don't maintain the associations, they get beaten up. And that's where the problem comes into play, is that they get beaten up because they're doing their job in the best way, but people who live there don't agree with what they're doing. Jennifer could be doing the best job possible, okay? but they don't agree that you're collecting assessments correctly. They believe that you're either you're not collecting them the right way because you want more money than you should be having. You want to pass a special assessment, you should be passing them, or you're not enforcing documents uniformly. You're treating me unfairly, and guess what? I'm looking at the trees not being trimmed, so I see all those different things, and I'm blaming Jennifer personally, especially at the pool.
Yeah, and we all know that you're stealing from the association. That's why you want to raise the assessments. It's amazing the distrust. So I was trying to figure out, where do we even start on this one? And I guess I kind of want to start with, owning real estate is expensive.
Yeah.
And people are entitled to their positions. And it's a little bit of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like you led out with, they've got a job. They need to collect assessments, enforce the rules, and take care of the property. And that takes time and that takes money. And the people who don't know what a board member does, it's easy for them to criticize, and it's easy for them to say, you're picking on me, or you're
Yes.
picking on people unfairly. And it's crazy.
We both live in single family homes, right? We have the same problems that Jennifer has. I have to make sure that the rules are enforced in the household. I have 2 children that come by every time. And guess what? They think they're guests now. Okay. Yeah. So the rules that we have established, they don't follow them. They don't apply anymore. Okay. All right. I don't collect enough money to pay the electric bill this came in. Okay. This has been the hottest summer on the record. Okay. The electric bill comes in. I know I'm going to have an issue with electric bill. And they talk about this maintenance of my home. I've been here for 20 years, 1955. And so these are the issues I face normally. Now, my wife and I, we get along, and she accepts the fact that some things may take longer than others. But poor Jennifer doesn't have that luxury that I have, and you have your wife.
Yeah. Okay. So what do? We've got board members that they need to take care of the association. They need to do their job, and they're getting the stink eye from homeowners that things are not going well. Okay. What can we do? Well, I guess, go ahead.
This is the first thing they have to understand, is that if they do the job they should be doing, they're going to hold their head up high. If they are enforcing the documents uniformly, okay, if they are maintaining it best of their ability, and they're collecting assessment, passing it, then guess what happens? They get a chance that they could be perceived as a bad guy, but inside of them, they have to realize that, guess what? I'm doing my job as association board member. And they have to understand that is the way they have to look at life now. Because what happens when they don't do that, the one problem that we see, and when we see our claims, something called selective enforcement of the documents. Selective enforcement becomes that issue because all of a sudden Jennifer realizes that, you know what, maybe I am being tough. Maybe my next door neighbor has a right to park that car in that visitor spot. So now all of a sudden, Jennifer, who went from doing the job she should be doing, passing assessments, maintaining association, and enforcing the rules, all of a sudden she selectively enforced the rules. And that became that's when you have a small problem into a big problem. When Jennifer decides, and I'm going to ease up a little bit because I don't want to be the bad guy. I'm going to allow people to do what they want to do. If they want to have a pet and we're not allowed to have pets, okay, guess what? I'm going to allow this one person this time, but I'm not going to allow anybody else. And that's where they get in trouble. When they start selectively enforcing, because once they selectively enforcement, then all of a sudden, now nobody's happy. And everybody loses, association loses, because saying, treating an association the way you should based on how the document said.
I'm hearing you and I agree. And I'm wondering if, again, to our board member audience, they know because they're living it, but it seems like there's multiple ways to get yourself in hot water. You can get yourself in hot water if you're not doing your job, if you are fundamentally not collecting assessments, not enforcing the rules, not maintaining the property. And you're also going to get people who don't like you if you are doing your job, if you are taking it. Because fundamentally, yes, I'm bracing myself for next month's electrical bill because we're running the air conditioner a lot this month. Our grocery bills are going up, and that's going to be an election issue, how much inflation has been. So we all know that costs are going up, and that needs to get reflected in homeowner assessments. So you know you're going to get that. But you also raised the third issue that if you are selectively or if you're doing things kind of halfway, that can get you into real trouble. And I think what we're at here is making sure that our listeners here are hearing that it may not feel magically right, but the best path forward is to do the right things.
Yeah.
And can we talk a little bit about communication?
As a board member, I have two choices. I can either do the best job I can do or do it kind of like almost good. And if I don't do it, if I do it almost good, people will complain. If I do a good job, no matter what a great job I do, people will still complain. It's like I said at the beginning. Nobody's going to say that you did a good job passing the assessments or maintain association, but people will complain because they perceive you did wrong. That, you want more money from me this month. I don't believe that you need it. You should have passed that budget last year, and I'm looking at the numbers, and now all of a sudden you need more money. I don't believe you're doing the right job. Now, what happens though, if you are doing the best job possible, then you'll be okay. See, at the end of the day, if you're doing it, if you are a board member, and if you are following the doc, if you are enforcing the document and doing those three things well, people will get upset with you, but you're going to have to accept it. Being on the board of directors, you have to understand that there's certain responsibilities you have to have. And you have to be able to walk and say, I am doing the job what's in the best interest of the association. I have fiduciary responsibility to do this job. And this is what I'm doing. Can you imagine having a conversation, Jennifer having a conversation with the person at the pool? That person at the pool is complaining because you raise a special assessment, you have a special assessment, right? And I can't believe it because you want to replace all the rules, whatever it is. And I come here to have a reserve study done. And and Jennifer can say, guess what? I understand. I have a fiduciary responsibility to monitor associations financially. And guess what? We have done that. We've done the job we should be doing. We continue the job we should be doing. And right now we need a special assessment so we can get these things done. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, that person is sitting back there going, it's a different conversation when you talk to them. It goes back to what we normally say, look, instead of me getting angry because how dare this person do this, I'm doing my job. I'm a professional. I'm a professional. I am a board member and I know my job. And standing firm against somebody and walking out in the pool area and not hiding from somebody. Because when you hide from somebody, guess what? They believe you're doing something wrong.
Right. They think you have something to hide. I think you said something there that as a board member, you become a public figure and you then carry the responsibility of the association on your shoulder. So it's important that you don't hide, that you don't minimize your trips to the pool, you don't minimize walking your dog at the regular time that you used to with different people around the association. So be a public figure and spread the good news and spread the truth. I think you can say that, hey, everyone, our electric bill went up by $1,000 this month. And I just want to give you a heads up that next year we're going to have to raise assessments because $1,000 more for electric divided by the 100 people, you can just tell them that that's where we're going. And they know that, oh, that's unfortunate, but Joe or Fred or Susie or Cheryl or whoever, wow, I need to stay friends with this person because I can get the inside track to what the real story is. And all of a sudden you can go from being the bad guy if you just wait and slap a increase on them to being the good guy by being the provider of truth, the provider of information, and giving them a heads up. That's just a kind thing to do.
And that's the key thing we talk about. Funny, I thought about the kindness part. Last month, August was National Civility Month. And in the office, we did all these different things to promote kindness in our office. I'm thinking, if the board members of community associations just operate in one word, kindly to one another, guess what happens? Now, all of a sudden, you're able to communicate better. You're able to promote the things that need to be done. And that alone will make a big difference. If Jennifer right now feels like she's the bad person, okay, what happens to Jennifer at the next meeting? She'd walk into that meeting feeling, intimidated, feeling overwhelmed, as opposed to Jennifer is going to feel like, listen, I am doing my job and I have one job to communicate. And you mentioned the word communication.
Yeah.
I have to communicate with yourself in a kind way. And can you imagine if you start communicating in a kind way, what kind of results you have for your association?
I live in a planned community, and we have some renters who moved in across the street with two teenage boys, and they both have their own cars. And the fire hydrant on our street is just about in front of our house. And as they were new in our neighborhood, one of those two new high school boys' cars would inevitably be parked smack in front of the fire hydrant. And that just annoyed me. And it's one of my pet peeves. And I told Kathy that, yeah, they're always, do they not know? And she says, well, go over there and just say hello. And she was absolutely right. I went over there and I said hello. I said, hey, welcome to the neighborhood. I'm Robert. I just want to let you know there's a fire hydrant right next to our street, and the house next to us had a partial burn 2 years ago. And that was before your time. But I just want to let you know that fire hydrants are real, and you don't have to move your car right now. But if you could start to build the habit of not parking right in front of it, that'd probably be good for all of us. I wasn't a jerk. Yep. I was making a point. You don't have to move it now because there's no houses on fire. No one's crazy, but just be aware of that. And it hasn't been a problem since. And that was just one of those things. It took my wife to remind me that to do the right thing and to do it kindly. And
that's what I think. You go back to Jennifer, right? Jennifer is doing her job. She feels comfortable doing her job, but this baby feels she mistreated. The words we just said, and just said, if she heard us, guess what happened? Now Jennifer will think that, wait a minute, if I go back to my next door neighbors and talk to them in a kindly way to say, guess what? I understand right now you're disappointed because there's something has to go up. But there's a reason. There's something called inflation that none of us like. And one thing we know about inflation, once those prices go up, they don't usually come back down. That's our new reality.
I want to follow up on that because I think we need to turn and start talking about what are some real things that we can have our board member listeners begin to say. But let's take a quick break. It's time to hear from one of our generous sponsors, after which we'll be right back with more HOA insights.
Are you part of a homeowners association or condominium board? Making the right financial decisions for your community's future is crucial. At Association Reserves, we're proud to serve communities nationwide, specializing in reserve studies tailored to your community's unique needs. Our expert team helps you accurately assess your property's assets, forecast future expenses, and develop a solid funding plan. Whether you're a small HOA or a large condominium association, we've got you covered. Visit reservestudy.com to learn more and get a proposal for your association.
And we're back. Okay, the reality is that as a board member, you're a public figure, and the homeowners are often suspicious about why the assessments are going up, why this is happening, why that's happening, and obviously they don't have the inside track. So, Kevin, what is it about being a board member? Is it so much on communication and knowing the facts, knowing the story, so you're getting the truth out there?
The one thing we don't talk enough about is education. You have to understand your job as a board member. You have a fiduciary responsibility. That means you have to act in the best interest of the association without any conflict of interest. And that's as simple as that. And so whenever you are involved with a unit owner or renter or whatever, and you realize that, wait a minute, I interact with this person as a public official now. I am almost like a politician. So I have to act a certain way. So when they ask me questions, I can't poo-poo them. I can't say, don't worry about it. I have to take a few minutes and answer their question. And most of the questions are the same. I can't afford it. How do you want this money from me? Yeah. Most of the plans financially driven in terms of assessments, special assessments. So now we're talking about being educated and just informing the people who live there. It's not that complicated.
I'm thinking that it may be as simple as having a little bit of a PowerPoint, a little slideshow or something at a board meeting saying, we live in a nice place and it's expensive to live in a nice place. Owning a home here is expensive, but you can see here that we're getting a little bit of mildew on the north side of the building where we don't get as much sunshine. We're getting a little bit of dry rot underneath the decks. And our insurance bill, you've probably heard about insurance. It's gone up. Inflation has gone up. Our electricity bill, for instance, went up by, as I said a moment ago, $1,000 a month, whatever it is. And so this is a little bit what it's like to live here in Happy Valley Villas. And just want to give you the heads up that our assessments will likely need to go up next year. Those kinds of things. And go ahead.
No, but again, go back to that simple thing. If Jennifer said everything you just said, we'll start out by saying, guess what? I have a fiduciary responsibility in association. Just by saying that, if you would add that one line to it, then all of a sudden it makes you feel that you have some authority behind it, that you're saying something, some strength or some power, as opposed to saying, Robert, guess what? We have some issues right now with the roof, and the roof is leaking, and we need a special assessment. And all of a sudden you can wish ahead. But if I said, listen, I have a fiduciary responsibility to look out what's the best interest of the association. Let me talk to you about the roof that needs to be repaired. All of a sudden the conversation changes. Also, Jennifer walks in and just walks that one line up front that I'm a fiduciary, which she basically, I'm a professional. My job is to look out for the best interest. But by putting that fiduciary responsibility, it just it gives her some power to be able to talk to somebody, and without having the other person, maybe they still may not have the respect, but it may garner a little respect from that individual, and maybe have that conversation more kindly at that point in time.
Yeah, I hope that the average person has compassion for someone who is trying to help. And if you can touch on that by making it clear that, yeah, I volunteered for the board and now I have a fiduciary responsibility. I have a responsibility to the association to lead, because, there were 2 leaks on building number 5 last year, and all the other buildings are going to be right behind. And we just can't afford to have all those buildings leaking and all the repairs. So it's time, at 22 years old, it's time to get new roofs. And just explaining the situation, explaining it calmly, and getting the word out. I continue to think that there's so much benefit to speaking the truth. And if you can speak clearly, and, Kevin, while you were talking, you said there's education involved. And I started writing down all the skills of a board member. There's education, there's communication, there's leadership, there's investigation. Why did the water bill go up? Did we have a broken line in the sprinkler, and should we get that fixed? Uphold the community. And sometimes you may need to be a salesman saying that, hey, it's time to paint this building, because if we paint it, that'll hold our property values. That'll maximize our property values, because our property values, the last 2 bedrooms sold for X 2 months ago, and that's a good number. And we want to make sure those numbers keep climbing up. There's all these different things that you can do. It's not just a board member. You have so many of these different skills that when you combine them, all of a sudden, again, we're leaning on some compassion. We're expecting the truth. We're expecting kindness.
In other words, transparency.
Yes.
Transparency. You add that to your list. Because if you're transparent, that person's not going to say, guess what? We need a special assessment to fix the roofs. And all of a sudden you see a new car comes inside. But it never fails. Somebody always got to buy a new car right after months after special assessment. And then guess what? Because you're not transparent, because you don't really explain all the details, all of a sudden everybody's mind goes, wait a minute, how come we got a new car? And then before that car gets into the garage, all of a sudden it's all through association about this person brought a new car.
Yeah. And
transparency.
It's so important for a board member to be a public figure and to say, yeah, I got a new car, but I'm also leaving an hour earlier because I got a new job that pays more, and I'm here 2 hours less every day because I got a longer commute. And yeah, I'm wearing a suit and a tie now, but yeah, I got a new car, but it has nothing to do with the special assessment. Any other questions? There's a truth there, and the truth speaks. Okay, so what do we have? Education, communication, leadership, investigation, upholding, selling, transparency, counselor.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Oh, gee, we could probably
What about this word? Here's another word: consistency.
I like that.
Yeah, consistency.
It really helps when your association has like a mission statement. Like we here at Happy Valley Villas are here to provide families a great place to raise their kids, access to public transportation, close to mainstream park, whatever it is. And we'll do this in a search, and all of a sudden you can say, I'm following consistently trying to do those things.
And not only have a mission statement that talks about, but make sure you include the things that are important in there, that you have a maintenance plan. So this is
Yeah.
the maintenance plan we follow. Okay. Make sure you have a non-discrimination policy. Okay. A lot of associations forget that one very important thing. And what happens now, especially for Jennifer there, because if Jennifer perceives she's the bad guy in the association and she's enforcing the rules, not as well as she should. She's selectively enforcing that one person that you're selecting enforcement, and the other person you're 100% enforcing, they'll come back and say, you discriminated against me. You're bullying me and harassment. So by not having a non-harassment policy, a non-bullying policy, and if you have one, you say, guess what? We're following our non-harassment policy, a non-bullying policy, a non-discriminatory policy. See, these are all the things that happen because you do not follow your rules exactly. You follow your rules exactly, good. You come back and go, guess what? We have a policy against that. We don't allow that in our association. You read that here, section 4.1 of the declarations. Yes, consistency is important, but it goes back to understanding that these are the rules. These are things we have to follow. And if we follow them, and again, I can fiduciary responsibility, right? Okay. So you're upset because the pool hours doesn't conform your 2:00 in the morning because that's the time you wake up. Well, here you read the rules, right? And you said you agreed, you signed these things, Robert, right? And but okay, then we expect you to follow. Just like the same thing you did with the fire hydrant. You're not supposed to park there. You're not being mean, you're not being vicious, you're not being unkind and unfriendly. You're just saying this is the behavior that we all agreed to. Society agrees not park in front of the fire hydrant, right? So it's the same thing. We have certain things that we agree to doing, and we follow these agreements. Guess what? We can live more peacefully and more calmly, in our association.
Yeah. Well, we've got a lot of people working and living together in a community, and they're bound by the governing documents and all these things. And that's going to be by nature bumpy because people have different ways of looking at things. They have different priorities. They have responsibilities. The board member is to collect assessments, enforce the rules, and maintain the association. Let me put a little twist on this. I read in the news there was an association that made the news for all the wrong reasons just the last couple of weeks, and it was a rules enforcement issue. The board was standing on the rules, and technically the homeowner was breaking the rules. Is there a time and a place for the board to say, maybe it's time we updated the rules?
Oh, sure. You have rules that are going 30, 40, 50 years, and they could be discriminatory. So you have to look at the rules and make sure they're not discriminatory against children. You have some rules may say that children can't be in a pool from these hours to this hour. Well, you can't discriminate against children. You can't. So, and certain things too that you have to. Things have changed. You have association rules that you can't have people who work from home or have certain types of work you can have from home. Sometimes you can't have. The documents need to be updated, and you see things, especially if you see things in the documents that are discriminatory. If you think they're discriminatory, they probably are. If you just wait, are these discriminatory? Check it out, because that's where the problem comes to play. That you end up putting something in there. You can say we don't allow any pets in our association whatsoever. Well, guess what? You can't do that. You have people who have doctor's note that says we have a mental health pet. Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing I don't, try not to be absolute because there's always going to be some wiggle room somewhere. And you have to use your best judgment. But if you will do what better by following the rules uniformly and consistently. So let's say you do follow the rules consistently and you say that, we're going to stop enforcing this rule. Well, consistently, we're not going to enforce it anymore. We're going to allow pets, but small pets. Okay, it's okay to change the rules and allow pets, but you can't say we're going to make an exception and allow the person to have a pet and nobody else have a pet.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I added another word in compassionate. And so at the right time, it is probably time to adjust the rules, change the rules, but you don't want to be being inconsistent. I would say change the rule before you start becoming inconsistent and unenforcing. Kevin, a fascinating topic. I think our board member audience is aware that they are walking around as different people once they become on the board. So as always, it's great talking to you with all your insights. Any closing thoughts to add at this time?
You know what? We never mentioned it. It's a business. Treat it as a business, not a social club. And once you put that business hat on as a board member, you will do a better job understanding that you are a board member. You're somebody who has a purpose there. You have a job to do. And as you do that, and you do it uniformly, consistently, all the words we said before, I think you will do a better job. And Jennifer, you may be perceived yourself as the bad guy, but you're not. You're doing your job for the betterment of the association. So have to change your thinking a little bit, because you're not. You're just doing the thing that should be done, because at the end of the day, you would make sure when you're ready to sell that it's worth more than an association down the street.
Absolutely. I like that close. Well, we hope you learned some HOA insights from our discussion today that helps you bring common sense to your common areas. We look forward to having you join us for another great episode next week.
You've been listening to HOA Insights, Common Sense for Common Areas. You can listen to the show on our podcast website, hoainsights.org, or subscribe on any of the most popular podcast platforms. You can also watch the show on our YouTube channel. Check the show notes for helpful links. If you like the show and want to support the work we do, you can do so in a number of ways. The most important thing that you can do is engage in the conversation. Leave a question in the comment section on our YouTube videos. You can also email your questions or voice memos to podcast@reservestudy.com, or leave us a voicemail at 805-203-3130. If you gain any insights from the show, please do us a huge favor by sharing the show with other board members that you know. You can also support us by supporting the brands that support this program. Please remember that the views and opinions expressed by the podcast do not constitute legal advice. You'll want to consult your own legal counsel before making any important decisions. Finally, this podcast was expertly mixed and mastered by Stoke Light Video and Marketing. With Stoke Light on your team, you'll reach more customers with marketing expertise that inspires action. See the show notes to connect with Stoke Light.